Hello and welcome to yet another project in the free online woodworking school where we are going to be making a beautiful dovetail toolbox. This specific one is made from oak, and although this video isn't going to include any making, it is going to include some very important information about the project ahead. So for that reason, it is strongly advised you stick around and watch this entire video, especially if you plan on making this thing. So obviously the last thing I want from this is for you to dive headfirst into this project, screw something up, and then me not be there to help you get through that. So for that reason, this video is going to cover things such as what to expect from the course and what you're going to learn from the course, but perhaps more importantly, it's going to tell you where to get the supporting resources for each part of the project to ensure that each section is completed successfully, and also what you'll need to complete the project successfully in the first place. Now, if you're watching this series leisurely and you're not actually planning on making this thing, you just want to watch it for entertainment purposes, you can ignore this next bit. But if you are planning on making it and using these videos as guidance to complete the project, then it is strongly advised you at the very least watch the Dovetail box series and the cabinet series from start to finish, because this project assumes a lot of prior knowledge. In an ideal world, you would have actually made the Dovetail box and the cabinet before embarking on this, but if you don't have time to do that, or you don't feel inspired to do each of those projects, a general overview of each of the processes wouldn't go amiss. So make sure to go back and do your revision before starting this. Now, as for the project itself, the one you'll see me make is made from oak, specifically American white oak. It's a perfect timber for a toolbox that at the end of the day is going to get bashed around a bit. Other materials you can make this from would be maple, ash, beech. I've even seen one made from walnut and maple before. That was quite bougie. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, just pick something that can take a bit of a beating. Now, perhaps more important than timber selection is timber storage, because what we're working with here is some quite wide and thin boards. And so if you're just lobbing these around your workshop, storing them in stupid positions, you can be damn well sure that by the time you come to glue this together, it'll be like trying to glue 4 wooden bananas together. It's not going to happen. So to counteract this, whether you've purchased the pre-machined packs that we'll talk about later, or if you're machining this stuff up yourself, between that stage and gluing this together, you need to make sure that you have stacked this timber with stickers in between each layer. This will allow air to move between each layer uniformly and provide consistent movement across all the boards. And so make sure to be really disciplined with that. It doesn't matter about the material as much. It's mainly about how you store it. So what new things are you actually going to learn while making this project? Well, firstly, we've got a new edge jointing technique to teach you. I've covered 2 different techniques so far in the Dovetail box project and the cabinet project, so I thought, hey, I'll chuck a third one in. As for joinery, we're being a little bit more adventurous with mitered dovetails. 5 dovetails, mitre at the top and bottom. Now, personally, I cut these dovetails freehand. However, now would be the perfect opportunity to get yourself a dovetail guide if you haven't already, specifically the Cat's Moses one here, because you'll be able to do the tails, you'll be able to do the pins, and you'll be able to do the 90-degree edges that the mitered dovetails require. So if you want to stack the odds in your favour ever so slightly and purchase one of these, there's a link in the description below. It's not cheating. Anyone who says so is a tongue and grooves is something we haven't touched on before. I actually made a mistake when sizing these, which was somewhat embarrassing considering this is the 3rd or 4th time I've made this project, not to mention the additional 3 that I've got stacked behind me here. But yeah, tongue and grooves, solid wood, and with plenty of lateral movement to allow for seasonal movement. Bit of foreshadowing there. Now, perhaps the scariest thing about this project is cutting the lid off after assembly. Originally, this top dovetail was 6mm bigger, but we buzzed a router through it, cutting about 3mm shy of the inside edge, then finished it off with a handsaw. No matter how many times you do it, it's a terrifying process, but of course I'm going to talk you through each step of the way. Now, with the mention of routers, it's worth saying now that this project is somewhat more power tool focused than the previous projects we've done. The reason being, we've covered the fundamentals of cutting grooves and cutting rebates by hand in those past projects, and so this project allows us to start focusing on slightly more intermediate processes such as using a router and using a router table. But of course, if you don't have one of those or you don't have both of those, there will be supporting resources below each video that will take you back to a past project where we covered that method by hand. Now, within this toolbox, we have a tray that is made to store chisels and marking out equipment and all that. And of course, I'll teach you how to make that as well as achieve a piston fit within the box. But perhaps more interestingly, we're focusing on a slightly different hinging technique in this project that allows the lid to stop just past 90 degrees. There is nothing special about these hinges. These are cheap. They cost me a couple of quid for a pair, but we've cleaned them up, we've polished them, and we've installed them in such a way that the lid binds just past 90 degrees, therefore stopping it swinging open and ripping it off the rest of the carcass. It is a brilliant method of installation, and I'm going to talk you through each step. In addition to that, we've got a lock at the front. This is completely optional, but I'm going to talk you through cleaning it up and installing it to achieve an absolutely beautiful fit. So let's talk a little bit about the structure of the course, because this one is slightly different to the cabinet and the Dovetail box series. The reason being, like I said before, this project assumes a little bit of prior knowledge. And so in assuming that, a lot of the steps within this project that would have previously been split up in the cabinet and the Dovetail box series have now been combined all into one. So for example, with the dovetails, in the Dovetail box, it was split down into marking out, cutting out, chiseling, whereas in this Toolbox project, all three of them are now in one. The same goes for the pins, the same goes for gluing it together. What would have been a 30, maybe even 35 part project has now been condensed into 15 or 16. Now this does mean that some of the processes will seem somewhat quick. So if you felt that something was glossed over in this project, take a look at the supporting resources, because I've put everything below each stage that relates to that specific process, but broken down into much more minute detail. Now, as for plans for this project, at the end of the day, it's a box. I'm not going to try and convince you it's anything other than that, but this one is scaled to be a traveling toolbox. That is to say, a jack plane standing upright in the lower section, as well as a smoothing plane and a variety of saws such as dovetail saws and carcass saws. And then in the top section, chisels, marking out equipment, pencils, hot dogs, whatever you want to take on your travels, but it's scaled to fit my needs as a tutor who does demos around the country. So if you do choose to purchase the plans for this project, which will include working drawings, cutting list, construction notes, and even a 3D SketchUp model, be aware that it's strongly advised that you scale that to suit your own needs. Double check the measurements that I've provided to make sure it actually fits what you plan to put inside it. Now, saying that, if you're one of the people who do want to build this project to the exact same specification I have here, but you don't have access to machining facilities, then be sure to visit the website mattesley.com/project packs, where you can purchase pre-machined timber for this project. This is supplied slightly over length and over width to give you plenty of wiggle room when it comes to edge jointing and also cutting to size. But the hardest part, being thicknessing, will all be done for you. So be sure to visit the link below, mattesley.com/project packs. It also comes in a variety of materials for you to choose from. But remember, it doesn't matter about the materials, it matters about how you store them. And so as soon as you take delivery of these project packs, cut them roughly to size and stack them correctly. And that is it. So links to everything I've recommended, such as the Cat's Moses Dovetail Guide, is listed in the description below, as well as a summary of everything that was covered. But now it is time for you to move on to the first part of the project, where we're going to be edge jointing the timber together. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below. But if not, click on the link below to move on to the first video. I'll see you there.